Welcome to the Factory Ops Exchange podcast, hosted by the U.S. Center for Advanced Manufacturing and Guidewheel. I'm Lauren Dunford, CEO of Guidewheel and Executive Committee member of the U.S. Center for Advanced Manufacturing. Today, I'm joined by Bob Buttermore, Chief Supply Chain Officer at Rockwell Automation. That is a big job, and Bob has spent decades helping shape how products are made around the world, not only by Rockwell, but also by their many customers. In our conversation, Bob shares lessons from leading not only during his decades at Rockwell, but also through the last 5 years of pretty unprecedented supply chain disruption. He shares how he and his team had to completely rethink what their operations looked like and how they've been able to be at the leading edge for what the factory of the future can look like. I was very surprised by even the huge potential to improve that he and his team were able to find in incredibly advanced factories. Bob also shares a lot of thoughtful advice on how to introduce AI and automation in ways that deliver good results while strengthening teams. Let's get started. Bob, so great to get to chat today. I feel so lucky to get to dive in. As we start, would love for you to just share a little bit about your awesome journey. You've had decades now within Rockwell Automation, have a fun story of how you got started as well. Can you share a little bit about how that arc has looked?
Yeah, sure, Lauren. So Bob Buttermore, Chief Supply Chain Officer for Rockwell Automation. And, I went to school at Ohio State University, got my degree in mechanical engineering. And while I was there, I did 5 interns. And, why is that important? 5 interns. There was 2 things. One, all of my interns were in manufacturing. The
Yeah.
second thing is, and really why I got to where I'm at in the automation and digital, industry is the second thing is in every intern, I met the Rockwell Automation Allen Bradley salesperson
Yeah.
that was calling on that account. So then when I was coming out of school, the focus for me was getting a leadership development program, a rotational program in manufacturing, and going to work for just a company that has great people, a great culture. And Rockwell Automation was there, and it was just a perfect fit as I started my career. They had the right program
Yep.
and they had great people.
Yeah. That leadership development program is just the best. Love it.
Yeah.
Any moments you remember when you realized, oh, this industry is for me?
Yeah, I spent my first 4.5 years in manufacturing, but I think the defining moment of that, this industry and being working for Rockwell Automation was when I transitioned from operations to sales.
Yeah.
And, when I transitioned from operations to sales, you got to every single day go into a different manufacturing environment, whether it was jellies and jams at the Smucker's company or peanut butter and jelly, or going into a steel facility, and you see molten steel running down the line to your next sales call was, a curing press at a tire company, and seeing the way all these things in our technology, brings these consumer products to market through our automation and digital capabilities. Just really resonated that this was the place to be. This is such a great industry, such an exciting business, and what we get to do every day and bringing really products to life for the consumer.
Yeah. Oh, I feel so lucky too. How do we get to see how all these amazing things are made? Any mentors, either growing up or at Rockwell, that shaped how you think about what innovation and operations looks like?
Yeah, there's so many people that have impacted my career. I could go on, but the one that I would talk about is actually my grandfather. I grew up right next to my grandfather. I grew up on a farm in Ohio, and I grew up right next to my grandfather. And we didn't work the farm; we rented most of the land out. But he had a day job, and then he had an afternoon, night job, and weekend job of a
Yep.
moving business. And this moving business, he had a big GMC truck with like an 8-foot cap on the back. And he moved people's houses. He delivered for furniture companies in town. I mean, you name it, he moved it. And I started working with him when I was 12 years old. And, this really just helped me learn the value of creativity, innovation,
Yeah.
and just hard work and never giving up. And every day we'd be trying to pull something that was crazy out of a house, 3,000 pounds, and we're going to get it out of the basement. And we did. No one ever got hurt. I think back to this now. No one ever got hurt in 15 years I probably worked with them, but it's kind of amazing. But we would find ways to get things out of the house. We would find ways to get things into a truck and get it in one load and get it to the next location. And, the value of just always creative, you'd look at that truck and be like, there's no way we are going to get all this stuff in that truck. But my grandfather would figure out a way with us helping him on how to get it in there and get it to the next spot efficiently and make the people happy that we were trying to help out in the community. And that just resonates with me. That never give up, always innovating, creativity was created early on in my life.
I love that example. And particularly, I think that example of staring at the truck and seeing something that definitely physically could not be done, and then repeatedly seeing it could.
Yes,
I'm sure that's a really powerful education.
it was. It
Yeah.
was.
Oh, amazing. If you were starting your career over today, what would you do differently, if anything?
I'm very fortunate. I've had just a wonderful career. I wouldn't change anything.
Hmm.
Starting out in operations was just such a great way to start. A matter of fact, I'd recommend that everyone, I don't care whether you're going to be an investment banker or you're going to actually be in supply chain the rest of your life, you're going to be in sales, you should actually do a little stint in manufacturing first, because the strength of that manufacturing has carried me through my career.
Yeah.
As I went into sales, as I went into the business unit, as I went into my regional roles living in Asia for 6 years. When I went from operations to sales,
Yeah.
because I understood the plant, I could get a meeting with a VP of manufacturing and go in there and make a sale
Yeah.
because I understood manufacturing. When I moved into the business unit, I had to work with the operations team every day. And it was easy for me to develop that relationship and frankly run my business better
Mm.
because I understood manufacturing and I could work with those teams really well. And even when I moved out to Asia, there were things that were impacting our customer service that I was able to identify and work with the operations team on and really create better value for our customers. So I wouldn't change a thing. I started in manufacturing was, probably one of the best decisions of my life besides marrying my wife.
Yes, well said. And I could not agree more on that recommendation. It's also so interesting because the principles and the empathy and the understanding of how things are made, it's also funny because I'm in these two worlds of manufacturing and software. So I listen to a lot of just software, Silicon Valley type podcasts as well. The number of podcasts recently from completely the Silicon Valley world that are mentioning the goal
Yeah.
as as an approach and talking about some of the basic principles of operations, I feel like it's increasing. It's a cool thing. Well, in that amazing career, you've also led Rockwell through a number of just challenging times in the world. I can imagine the stories you have of challenges that you've overcome with the team are probably pretty crazy and fun. Any that come to mind? Any examples of challenges you've been able to overcome?
Yeah, I think in operations, every single day you have challenges, and I'm sure all the chief supply chains officers out there know what that's like. Every day there's a new challenge. But if I look, the last 5 years have just been unprecedented disruption after disruption after disruption, and it's really completely changed the way we need to think about operations. It used to be you just focused on performance. Now it's got to be you got to perform and transform at the same time. It's instead of just in time, it's just in case. You have to build that resiliency. And I think it's a couple examples of that for us. And this is a continuous journey for us. But before the pandemic, before COVID, before the supply chain crisis in the electronics space, we ran 5 days a week, maybe 2 or 3 shifts, maybe not even that sometimes in our plants. And then as the supply chain crisis hit, we went to running 24/7. And when we
Yeah.
ran 5 days a week, we would have power disruptions. We didn't have power redundancy. It was no big deal. We could make it up on the weekend, make it up on run a little overtime during the week, and we'd be fine. But when you're running 24/7, you can't afford for that facility to be down for a second. And you
Yeah.
have hundreds of people there standing around, and so we had to go and implement power redundancy across the globe in all of our facilities, and that's just been replicated. We needed to build more capacity and redundant capacity, and it's changed from that just in time to just in case, and it's created really a steady stream of investment
Yep.
that we're doing every single year, looking at how do we build more and more resiliency and agility into our integrated supply chain.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating. And as you've been rethinking so many different aspects of the operation, whether it's power redundancy or staffing or whatever it might be, are there operational kind of practices that used to fit and now no longer do? Any that you've rethought or phased out on that kind of operational front?
Yeah, yeah. I think this is something that you constantly have to be looking at is
Yeah.
does, the past way that you've operated continue to be the way you need to operate and look at yourself into the future? And I'll give
Yeah.
you a couple examples that are a great example of that. When I came in, we looked at 30 different metrics and
Mhm.
you can imagine the challenge of that. You're in a review trying to go through 30 different metrics that are determining your performance. And the questions everyone's trying to figure out, how is this metric measured? Is this a 12-month rolling average? Is this a 3-month rolling average? Is this a 1 month number? Is this a whatever, a blended
Yep.
number? And people would get bogged down in that, and then people would zone out. There were so many metrics to go through, and by the end, you really accomplished nothing. You had no
Yeah.
actions. And so what we did is we changed from talking about 30 different metrics at an executive level to five.
Mm.
We said these are the five most critical metrics that there's lots of metrics down through the organization, thousands. But if these five metrics are good,
Yeah.
then all these are probably good. So focus on these, focus on what's working, what's not, what's the causals of missed performance, and drive actions against those.
Mm.
And you'll deliver great performance. You'll wow the customer, as I say, if you do those things right. And that's been a game changer for us. You can really, really focus and
Yeah.
drive performance when you look at just the top metrics that matter.
Yeah. I love it. That principle of 80/20, and if you do everything, you do nothing, plays out just all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. Maybe just you've seen, I'm sure, tons of practical examples of manufacturing transformation, big impact, both within your customer base and Rockwell's own operations. Any that are particular stories you love?
Uh, you know, the exciting thing about working at Rockwell is that, every day we're working with our customers
Yeah.
to, help them bring the factory of the future to life for them. I mean, that's what every customer is coming to us today and asking for is help us build the factory of the future with your technology and with your partner ecosystem. But what's interesting about this is exactly what we're trying to do internally. We're trying to become the showcase for the industry and for our customers
Yep.
on how to build a factory of the future. And so Singapore is one of our large facilities in our network,
Yeah.
and we about a year and a half ago we went on this transformation journey with Singapore. And what's interesting about Singapore is it was already a world-class facility for us.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that you look at external metrics and you look at efficiency and you look at quality and you look at cost, it was already at
Mm.
those world-class levels.
Yeah.
But we decided that we're gonna go and integrate a transformation there and put more automation in, AI, more digital transformation, and automate material movement. And we saw a significant impact
Hmm.
by doing that in a world-class facility. We got 35% reduction in costs.
Wow.
We got a 25% reduction in energy. And
Yeah.
one of the most important metrics to me was the time to competency for our associates. By integrating AI and new technology, we were able to improve our time to competence by 60% for our associates, which is huge
Yeah.
as we go into the future.
Those are some crazy numbers. That's amazing, especially because of what you shared. This was already a very advanced facility. If you're
Yeah.
achieving those types of 30%, 25%, 60% improvements from a really high base, wow.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I was really impressed with the work the team did.
Yeah.
The team did a great job.
Yeah, amazing. I also, of course, always like to find, not everyone is in that world class already state. Are there low lift, high reward things or kind of simple tweaks that you've seen tend to have really high bang for the buck or, impact for the size?
Yeah, and I think that's the exciting thing about technology today. It's how rapidly it's evolving and the time to value. It's creating so many opportunities in every part of manufacturing, even in job shop manufacturing. It's creating opportunities for automation. But to give you an example of one that was just it might be a little bit bigger than a little tweak, but a big tweak, uh, is we have an engineer to order business,
Hmm.
which is really, high labor content, a lot of manual work. And one of the most complicated jobs in those engineer to order facilities for us is wiring up of big panels or units, as we call them, for the customer with all these different products in there and wiring them together. And this is the hardest job in the
Yeah.
factory. It's all manual. It's the highest turnover. It's
Yeah.
the worst quality, and it's the least job satisfaction role. It's the toughest job. An associate has to read a 2D piece of paper, a 2D schematic,
Yeah.
and then look at this big panel and figure out where do I need to wire this. And they would have to cut the wires to length and strip them.
Hmm.
And we integrated some technology.
Yeah.
We integrated a machine to do the cutting and stripping of the wires, but then we integrated a digital screen
Mm.
that shows them exactly where to put the wire in the panel.
Mm.
And this was developed. What's really interesting about this too is so we use digital 3D.
Yeah.
We use digital tools instead of manual tools. We used an automated machine to help with some of the wire
Mhm.
cutting. But what's really interesting about this is this came about because of an innovation challenge that we run at Rockwell Automation every single year. We run an innovation challenge, and different teams compete to win the challenge. Well, this
Mm.
team won the challenge.
Mm.
We funded the project, and then we implemented it in all of our ETO factories around the world. And what we've seen, and I think this is where the impact is
Yeah.
if you go and talk to the associates and you interview the associates. I mean, hey, it's been great for us from a productivity
Mhm.
perspective, a quality perspective, all those things. But if you go talk to the associate that does that job,
Yep.
what you'll hear from them is it's transformed the way they feel, because they'd leave work feeling bad because their job was so difficult and it was so hard to get perfection and produce at the rate they wanted to, and
Mm.
they wanted to be successful. This tool now allows them to be successful, and when they leave at the end of the day, they feel fantastic. It's like job well done. And
Yeah.
I think that impact, that people impact,
Yep.
and in making their job easier and more rewarding, is what the biggest impact of that
Yeah.
tweak and putting a little bit of automation in place made for our team.
Yeah. Ugh, and I love that thoughtfulness around having an innovation challenge and speaking to folks' natural competitiveness, but also that people are going to know the most about what affects them. And so if they can be creating and suggesting the solutions, that's by far the best way to have it happen. Oh, so much. Yeah. I love so much about that. Okay, as we start to draw to the last sections, I wanted to get your perspective on some of the trends shaping the factory of the future. You have a very unique and cool perspective on all these different trends: AI, AR, VR, predictive maintenance. What manufacturing trends do you think are genuinely reshaping things and having a big impact? And what are some misconceptions?
Yeah, you know, something I said earlier, I think, and going back to it,
Yeah.
how rapidly technology is advanced and continues to advance every week, every year, every 5 years, coupled with the time to value. The time to value for technology is just transforming what we can do in manufacturing today and really creating the opportunity for us to bring factories of the future to life. But I think there's three big technologies that are changing the game.
Yeah.
And one of them is software defined automation.
Hmm.
And when we think about this digital world and being able to design in a digital twin an entire facility digitally,
Yeah.
and then actually run it with the automation integrated into the equipment and all
Mhm.
the mechanical equipment in a 3D model in a digital twin, and being able to do that before you buy anything and find out all the mistakes that you could make are really changing the game for productivity and really the how fast you can implement
Mhm.
something in today's world. And that's just one example with digital twin of software defined automation, but it's transforming what we can do. That helped us in Singapore as an example. Using that digital twin got us to the right answer much faster than if we would have been doing it on paper or 2D. But that software defined automation is one. Number two, I'd say, is production logistics.
Hmm.
Automating material movement, automating warehouses, automating material movement from the warehouse to the line, through the line, back out of the line into the warehouse and to the shipping dock. That automating of material movement, that production logistics,
Hmm.
and the technology and capabilities that are out there now with AMRs
Yeah.
is really changing the game on the indirect side. And that was a huge piece of our transformation in Singapore.
Yeah.
We're implementing it now in all of our facilities around the world to help us accelerate that material movement automation. And then the third piece is AI. You
Mm.
know, AI is a game changer and how fast you can implement solutions, but how it takes complex challenges that you had in the past and allows you to put practical solutions in place in your factory. It really, you know, in the factory, there's just endless opportunities for
Yeah.
AI. And I think those three are really transforming, you know, the pace at which you can get productivity and changes into your factories.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, incredible. Um, to that topic of AI automation, how do you at Rockwell think about how to implement that in a way that makes sense? You talked also about the people focused view. How do you balance those things? What are some tips and tricks you might have or stories of how to do that well?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I'm gonna come to that question in a
Yeah.
second. I missed the second part of your question on the previous one, the
Yes.
misconceptions.
Yeah.
I did want to hit that. You know, I think one of the the biggest misconception
Yes.
is that all this technology is going to eliminate jobs. If you
Yeah.
look at all the data tells you that we have a gap
Hmm.
in the number of people to fill manufacturing and supply chain jobs
Yeah.
today. And so I think that's one of the misconceptions is that the technology is going to eliminate jobs. Actually, we need more people to go into manufacturing. We need public and private coming together and encouraging people at a young age in middle school and in high school and programs after high school to move into manufacturing supply chain because
Yeah.
you know the reality is we need the makers for all of us to improve the quality of life for the world. And I think you know what we need to do is inspire generations
Yep.
to become the makers in manufacturing and supply chain. And it's not the elimination of jobs. It's actually getting more people interested and engaged in being a part of their career being integrated supply chain and manufacturing.
Oh,
So that's that. I wanted to answer that one. I missed that one as we
yes.
were through. So
Such an important point. Oh, just, and I think people just don't realize how incredible this industry is and that there are so many new types of jobs being created. Yeah, it's super
yeah.
exciting.
So now to answer your question there about, you know,
Great.
how do we integrate this technology in a methodical way
Yeah.
and do that in the proper way? There's three things that we really think about as we, you know, look at AI as an
Yeah.
example, as you talked, as your question was. One is, you know, return on investment.
Mm,
Two is disciplined innovation. And then three is fusion teams. And I'll talk about each of those a little bit. But first is it's got to have a return on investment. And you know, I get asked every day to integrate new technology in our factories and in our supply chain. And
mm,
the first thing I go back to is, okay, let's look at the ROI. And you know, there's times where we'll say, you know, that new piece of technology is not going to work here, but how about over there?
yeah.
Well, it does work over there, and but we got to focus on ROI. And because, you know, Lauren, what's the first question that a customer asks me when they walk in our facility and they see, oh, you integrated this technology? First question they ask me.
Ooh, how much did it cost?
That's a good one. That they definitely ask that too. But
What
they
was the
ask return
impact?
on investment. They ask the ROI, right? That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first. Yeah. So when we do it, we have to make sure that
yeah,
that's our first principle. Does this have an ROI?
yeah.
Second is then disciplined innovation. And here is we've got to be careful. You can go wild and implement automation everywhere real quickly, but you could create some you know, disabling your supply chain as you go through that. So
Mhm.
what we focus on is identify the best opportunities or use cases
Yeah.
to implement AI, and then we pilot that,
Yep.
and then we scale that. And that's what I mean by disciplined innovation. It's not going out and doing 20 different use cases at one time. It's focus on a couple, pilot them, then scale them so that you can, you know, continue to run a successful supply chain. I'll give you an example where this could really go bad.
Yeah.
If I just said to my 20 plants, every planning group in those 20 plants, I want you to go implement an AI use case in your planning of your plant. And they all go and they all create 20 different AI models,
Mm,
and all of a sudden, what do I have? I have a complete mess in my supply chain, right? I have things not working right. I have customer service
yeah,
problems. I have people don't even know what's going on because we've implemented this technology, but we don't have it in control.
yeah.
Whereas it would be better to go and say to all those 20 plants, hey, I want you to come together,
Mm,
come up with the top use case that you think we should work on from an AI perspective, and then let's go pilot it in one plant, and then we'll scale it when we get it done. So, discipline innovation is the second one.
yeah.
The third one is around fusion teams, and this is
Mm,
pretty simple. It's bringing the right people together in this new world of AI. It's
mm,
bringing subject matter experts for the process or the machine together with digital engineers, data scientists, and then the associates
mm.
to work together on how do we implement this so that we get the results we want out of that, whether that was better quality or better throughput, or better productivity, all those things. It's those teams working together in fusion teams
Yeah.
that we're trying to do to implement AI technology across the organization.
Oh, so much good stuff. I know you have a very big job, so I want to make sure you can get back to doing it. Any last things you want to say before we close?
Well, I think just emphasizing that there's so much rewarding and great careers, in the automation industry and in
Mm,
manufacturing. And I encourage people to look into it and jump in and really, go out there and promote it and find ways to get more people interested in integrated supply chain and manufacturing today. There's great rewarding careers there, and I look forward to that journey myself as we go
yeah.
forward. A couple of things I'd leave you with, just so you know,
Yeah.
who am I outside of work?
Yeah.
Outside of work,
Yeah.
uh, I grew up on a farm, right?
Yeah.
And growing up on a farm, it was all about family and being outside. So
Yeah.
it's no different for me today, right? Everything I do outside of work's about my family. I coach my kids' sports. I spend a lot of time on family vacations, family activities, and the only thing I really do for myself is I love to run and
Mm.
lift weights, but I love to run outside, and that kind of goes back to my upbringing of farm,
Yeah.
growing up on a farm. I really struggle to run on treadmills.
Oh, yeah, no,
I
treadmill's
love
the
running
worst.
outside.
Amazing. Bob, thank you. Such an honor. I feel like I learned a ton in this conversation. Really appreciate you making the time.
Well, thank you, Lauren. Appreciate it.
A huge thank you to Bob for sharing such a rich set of stories and lessons. His career is a reminder that the most lasting changes in manufacturing happen when we combine new technology with a clear ROI, disciplined rollouts, and a focus on making work better for the people on the floor. If this episode gave you ideas, share it with a colleague and follow the Factory Ops Exchange for more conversations with leaders who are building the future of manufacturing. Thanks for listening.